This is the third episode of Road Top 500. On last one we left off with 1342 MMR, which is around 1.5k ish placement wise. This first game is French versus Rus on high view. Now I like to do a double scout opener as French, and it's especially good versus Rus. I would say in any 1v1 game with French, besides water maps or hybrid maps, you want to open up double scout. I did kind of forget in this game to actually start the scout first, and first I made the worker, but it should not be too much of a problem. Now versus Rus, you want to reduce the bounty that they gain, and that would mainly include deer, but wolves gain actually quite a large amount of bounty, 25 per, and usually there's quite a large amount of them scattered through the map. So denying wolves is also quite important, as for example that alone is 50 gold denied. I was quite used to playing a certain build order with a certain civ, so I kind of went for wood instead of gold, which clearly is not the option here. This is my I wanted to try something new this game actually. I've been experiencing it myself on this exact map when I played Ruse, and I lost to this build order. Obviously I didn't copy the build order perfectly, but I basically wanted to execute a H2 tower rush with a few knights backing the tower rush. So it's fun of just killing as much deer as I can and gathering a few wolves. So I want to start with 7 on food and 4 on gold. This will give me a bit more gold than I need to, but will allow me to get professional scouts if I want to. Even though I don't think that's what I'm going for in this case. In this case I will try to get just more night production out of this, as I just gonna bank gold. And it's probably not the best to bank up gold if you're not actually planning to go for professional scouts. I mess up my macro here a bit and let him get 2 wolves, not just, instead of, I think I could have stopped him from getting either one of the wolves, but instead both of them went to him, which is not the best. I want to drop down my second landmark between 50 and 3 minutes at the latest, so I do that now. Well, after I actually select the correct one. I want to have 4 workers on the landmark. That's the typical amount of workers I have for French, at least. Usually I put a few less, but since I'm going for aggression, it's nice to have a few more workers down on it so I can get the landmark faster. Now of course one thing about Ruse is, since they do not require gold, they should get to the landmark a lot faster than literally any other civ. Ruse has the fastest age up out of any civ in the game, at least on land maps, but I think it goes for any type of maps, to be honest. Just because they do not need to make the mining camp and still get enough gold to go up with. So shortly, I'm not sure exactly when, but shortly I will send out 2 workers to build my towers for the tower rush. Now I think it's not the like my execution might not be the best of this build, but I think it's actually a build with some potential, as I don't think people exactly expect towers going up this late into the game, especially from French, at least at lower elos or around my elo. I never seen it besides that one game that someone tried against me, which inspired me to do the build. I believe I sent out the workers a bit too late here. I perhaps should have had them out already on the other side of the map, but I also would not have a knight to protect them. So I think that I should have sent them around 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds earlier. I perhaps have a few too many workers on wood, even though I am planning to go for a tower rush. I probably would not need 6. I would probably want a few more on gold and a few more on food potentially. perhaps like a 12-5 split on food and gold, and 1 or 2 workers on I'm close to 3 workers on wood. Then if I had a significant bank, I would be able to make enough towers with that. I assume I haven't actually gotten the first update, but that would be very beneficial, obviously. And I'm just gonna spam nights out. I want to maintain my night production and preferably not mess out on worker production either. And there I just want to deny I want him to do anything that makes him waste more resources than I do. So nice thing about Ruse is that their towers cost more. So if I make 1 tower and he makes a tower for it as a response, that is plus 75 wood that he wasted comparatively to me. So even if I make 2 towers, I barely wasted more wood than he has. Since people most likely don't have a perfect practiced out response versus a tower rush, and a tower rush is instead very easy to execute, they will most likely overreact in one way or another, and as long as I'm able to work with the fallout of that overreaction, I will be okay in terms of my state in the game. If I'm able to force a stronger reaction than my commitment, then I will be ahead. Which is basically what I'm trying to do now. Shortly I'm gonna go for stone to go up for second C, which is what I decided to do to get an advantage in the game, as he probably will not be focusing on getting second C down now, and Ruse often doesn't do that, as they want to just hit a very fast H3, and if they want to go for second C, they will have to delay the H3, as they'll have to put other people on mining gold, or if delayed by 2 minutes, as you need to make 2 transactions for 300 stone with the golden gate. Here I again miss micro a bit, I must admit. This was my first game of the day, so I did not play amazingly by far. I should have been able to get 1 or probably 2, I would say, but at least 1 of those scouts, who should have been really easy pickings, but did not quite work out. Luckily my opponent missed quite a few ults on the map, so his bounty definitely is not 500. Probably still over 250, but at least it's not insanely high. So yeah, as I'm able to have a turret up on each side, he cannot really punish me as is, as I can just walk my workers back to the tower, and then, well, I cannot do much about it currently. Finally got the worker going for stone. He really should have paid attention to where his workers are mining wood from. And here I'm just gonna micro my workers back and forward from his spearman. At this point he really wanted to throw down the archery range a lot earlier, so I would not be able, he would just be able to contest this from going up ever. That is a alright second tower that he's placing down, but I don't know if it's necessary. His wood line is already protected. He has a tower in the middle of it. I don't know if he needs another tower for his second wood line, but it's not bad to be more precautious of things, so I wouldn't say it's particularly a bad response, besides the fact that now he has invested 350 resources into this, while I have 400 invested, but 100 of them I can get back. And he already built that second archery range with a bunch of units from the barracks as well, and now he's building a bunch of archers too. So he was already gotten a larger reaction than what I have committed into this, which is already a win for me. But ideally, I want to get more ahead from this. So I want to go for a second C when they get up to enough stone and wood count. I'm going to send my workers back, as I'm not going to be able to get up any more towers now that he has archers out. You could technically crawl with workers against archers, but it's just such a slow crawl, it's almost pointless. Yeah, since I have total control over my side, there's no reason for me to go for the in the open. It's behind my base, it's in a good location, and I have total control of my side of the map. Now I do want to keep an eye on his army, which luckily for me he keeps in view, so I know that he has moved it out, and I do want to harass his workers as much as I can. I've killed the worker earlier, if I remember correctly. Now I killed 2 more workers, so in addition to French having a better economy by producing more workers, not only am I going for second C, but I'm also sniping his workers, so this should really put me ahead economically as much as possible. I'm producing a few more knights as he's producing some more archers, and I want to have some units ready to, in case he wants to go for an attack. Currently I have no other production structure, and I really should get some more wood and make an archery range with some archers, so I can protect against his PM and push. But I think currently he would be too afraid to move out, even though I think that would be the correct choice in his decision, because if I am doing anything behind this, then he'll be behind. If I'm not doing anything behind this, then he can just trade with my army, and if I am going for a greedy eco play, he definitely has the units to punish me. So I think it's a mistake for him to stay in his own base with such a large mass of units. Now I'm finally adding an archery range, and even 2, which is definitely a correct decision. I'm gonna have knights and archers, which gives me the mobility control over his army. If he moves in his archers too much, I can move my knights, and knights overall outmaneuver spearmen. We're picking off a few units here instead of workers. It's obviously not as good as getting a few worker kills, but there's no reason why not to take advantage of that. So from here on I just need to keep up my economy and make sure I don't die to the counterattack, which I'm assuming will happen eventually. Now I'm also kind of close to going up to H3, which I do want to do as soon as I can. It will give me access to some crossbowmen, which I don't actually need right now, but mainly it will give me upgrades which will put me ahead of him. Specifically the veteran upgrades are quite strong, as they allow you to get more HP, more damage, and some other stats in certain cases. A veteran upgrade is very strong. It's much stronger than the +1 upgrade which you can get from his blacksmith. So yeah, now I'm gonna be going up. I put 7 workers on it. I think I could have probably put in a few more, as he already has a ram, and as soon as he clears this out he would push, and that is quite bad for me. He doesn't actually have that many spearmen out, at least as the ones I can see, so maybe I should have produced more knights behind this as well. But I double down on archery ranges, as my economy is better. Even though I'm behind, I should be able to outproduce him at least eventually, and if he gives me time to get the veterancy upgrade out, then I should be able to fight his massive archers with my massive archers. So my job here is to delay him as much as possible, and if I can also whittle down his archer number, that will be very beneficial for me as well. It is always nice to go for a unit switch when your opponent isn't scouting you. So currently he's only ever saw me build knights. I don't know why he's also committed so hard into archers when he's only saw me build knights. I feel like probably a few less archers would have been nice. Maybe getting some horsemen down, going for H3, but nice to beat out horsemen. But I don't know, I'm not sure actually what would be the best composition for him, but I just don't feel like archers is it. As if I just honestly dropped down 2 more stables instead, I would have had a similar amount of success versus the current army that he has. So luckily he decided to delay himself a lot more than he really needed. he didn't need to destroy the towers, or at least not all of them. Maybe destroying the one that was the most forward was beneficial to him, but destroying the other three, especially the one that I could cancel and wasn't even fully built, was really not necessary for him. It only served to delay his push, which gave me more time to get more units to prepare for his push. And now he has built a blacksmith, since he has the ram, so I think he might have a +1 on defense or attack. With archers, depending on what you're facing, armor or attack would be differently beneficial. For him, probably +1 attack would be more beneficial than defense. But it doesn't really matter. He did manage to steal a deer right under my TC, which he also spotted with a scout, which is not ideal. Ideally he wouldn't know about my second TC, which might stop him from pushing as much, especially now that he has caught up in age. If he didn't know that I was ahead TC wise, he might not feel the need to push. I'm able to snipe down at least a few of these scouts, which is nice. I'm not sure actually why my units decided to go back instead of keep attacking them, but just AOE4 things, I guess. Here I get 2 out of the 3 scouts, and I assume that this army is going to continue marching. At this point I think I have an equal if not greater mass of archers that also have he hasn't gotten a veterancy upgrade over me yet, so if we fight now I should very easily clean up his army. So at this point, from my perspective, the game is pretty much over, unless he goes for insane boom himself, or just really does well on the push somehow. Even if he takes out my second TC right now, obviously that would be good for him, but that doesn't really achieve much. I already benefited from it, it's already paid for itself, and I have way more workers than he does. Since I didn't lose any to harass, and I had French production and French and a second CC. I want to mix in a few mana terms, since he a few crossbowmen, or arbuletas in my case, since it is common for Rus to add knights into the army composition. I'm not sure he will, because he already committed so many buildings and infrastructure into other non-stable production. But crossbowmen, like in small numbers, already are very beneficial against knights, and they don't do horribly against spearmen. They don't do well against archers, but again they don't do horribly against them, so it's not particularly a bad idea just to have them, even if they don't directly counter unit your opponent has. They're decent. Like, as far as I understand, the best unit composition, at least in H3, is just knights and crossbowmen and springles to snipe any AoE that the enemy has. The knights and crossbowmen just complement each other so well. Knights are able to take out any sort of threat for the crossbowmen, and the crossbowmen deal with the biggest threat, which is the knights themselves. And while they don't deal efficiently with spears, they're more than good enough to take out spears. And being gold units, they are generally better than their wood counterpart, unless the wood counterpart serves a specific purpose that is provided. I feel like that's the biggest difference between the two. While you require the wood counterpart to be a specific counter, the gold counterpart just does well against things in general. So he's adding in horse archers, which preferably I would have had archers against, but since I have AoE, I'm not too afraid of that. I do lose my scout, which is not ideal, and I have my priest away. He does see my mangonel, which will probably prompt him to respond with some springles of his own. Now, I probably should have been adding a few more springles to this, but I was just thinking that with the mangonels that I have, I would just be able to overpower him, and even if he had like 1 or 2 springles out, if I have enough mangonels and he'd land a few hits, it doesn't honestly really matter. So here I go for a push because I don't want him to mass an army, even if I don't trade out favorably. As long as I keep him from getting a large army, or just put pressure on him, it doesn't really harm me. Since I'm so far ahead economically, even if I start losing out units, it's still going to be a beneficial trade for me, as long as I don't lose everything for nothing. If I can do a little bit of damage, then that's good enough for me, as long as I can delay him from doing anything. So here he has some springles. He has a few spearmen, horse archers and archers. Wanna bring in my mangonel to maybe at least get a shot in. I don't think it will reach the archers before it dies, so I just use it there. I want to split my archers into two groups so that they don't overkill as much, and queue up multiple targets so that they again don't overkill, and two groups focus on different targets. I'm able to kill off his army, but at this point I'm not going to be able to kill him. I don't do any sufficient damage to the springles, and even though they've been severely nerfed a while back at this point, they still can just deal with me just fine, and his inevitable unit flood will overpower me. So, for me, a non-favorable trade would have been good enough, but now I've gotten a trade that was favorable, so there's no reason to continue when I can just get my units out safely instead. At this point I should probably be thinking about going up for h4, since if he gets to h4 and is allowed to settle in, he can win out, as Rus has a very strong late game. The Rus upgrades from the high tower, I believe it is, are honestly kind of broken in my opinion. They give the Rus ability to have longer range springles, better bombards. The mangonel one is nice, but it's not as game breaking, I think. And the Rams one is obviously kind of useless this late into the game. But the springle bonus range upgrade is honestly, I feel like it's kind of broken. Might be wrong on that, but in my opinion it is really strong. So I want to rather get really far ahead to where and cut off resources from him, where he cannot benefit from the gold on the map, so that he cannot get a full gold army, or just straight up go out and kill him, or at the very least put him on a timer with sacred site. I feel like it's going to be kind of difficult to take the last site, but having 2 sacred site income is at least better than what he has, and having no income for yourself. I don't believe haven't been taken out as often from my guild hall, which will make it easier for me to age up. I think I've mentioned this before, but I think it's honestly not that bad to take out of your guild hall kind of often, especially if you are fighting constantly. Obviously, if there's no need to take it out, there's no need, but if you need the extra gold, even though you're not gonna lose the game if you don't get it, there's more benefit from wasting a bit of the income to getting what you need at that moment. I feel like it might not be, I'm not sure if that's the best solution always, but I think it is not as horrible as some people might think it is. At this point I take out the gold because I just wanna age up, and I'm gonna trade up some of the gold into food so I can go up to h4. I'm gonna go up with the Red Palace. Red Palace is the most broken castle landmark in the game. I'm pretty sure it's currently bugged, because I don't believe that the damage it does is intended. It rips through anything within range, especially if you have units in it. The more units you have, the more damage it does, I'm pretty sure. And it's not really acceptable, I think. It rips through siege, units, anything. Only bombers can take it out. While on the other hand, I'm not sure what it's called, but the anti-siege cannon that you get from the other building is really not worth it. Uh, that siege engine in particular, I feel like is really useless. If you want to kill siege, there's no reason not to build springles. They're faster, cheaper, and have good range. That there's no reason not to build springles if you want to kill siege. I instead really prefer having build cannons. I feel like that's still this very strong unit, but I think you're really required to have springles to kill siege currently. So now I'm going to be able to go up to H4. I haven't been scouting my opponent, which is a mistake. I really should be keeping an eye on him and what he's doing. But yeah, I'm almost maxed. I'm at H4. I want to add a few cannons to the mix. And yeah, again, like, I think the game pretty much ended after he did not retaliate to my second TC, and when I was able to trade out armies. At this point I should be so far ahead of him that there's no real way for him to come back, unless I leave him alone for like 15 minutes, let him get H4, let him get the upgrades and let him max out. Then he might have a chance to win. So obviously I don't want to be doing that. So I'm getting some cannons out, very small amount of cannons, as I don't have much population or the golden wood to actually produce them. But yeah, I want to start slowly pushing into his base, even though again I think this is also not the greatest decision. I probably should have went around and tried to take control of the holy site he has, well, sacred site, my bad, that he has in control, as I would put a much stronger timer on him. I'm not sure if he would have had a castle there in place, as he already has a castle there, but in either case it would be worth at least checking to see if I can do any damage there, and if I can, to just retake the site, it would just be very beneficial. I'm gonna drop down the university, bring down a few more castles which I don't think are really needed. Just having a red palace there already is strong enough. Now this round is really not gonna do anything. I presume he just wanted to free up supply. And even losing that TC at this point doesn't matter because I'm not making any more units. I mean, villagers in particular. Now I have a few cannons, so I wonder if I can push it into him. He's not H4 yet, so he doesn't have the Springle upgrades. Even though Springle aren't that bad against cannons even now, but you know, it would not be as strong as with the added range. So I want to slowly take down his castle. Now this the castle, these units, the cannons have a bigger range than they can see, so the castle needs to be in view, rather because it's shooting or because something is spotting it. That's why whenever it shoots I am able to shoot back, but currently I'm not viewing the castle. This was a bit of a misplay on my part. I really should have gotten a scout with this army, or just had a unit take a little bit of damage, like one of the archers just take some damage, so I could take this down a bit faster than I did. Okay, the castle is able to do some damage to me, but I'm not too worried about it. Now that I see the amount of sprints he has behind it, I instantly pull back, as there's no reason to just lose more cannons. I decided to get a tower up to be able to spot what he's doing. And at this point I really should have just moved up top to that gold, as well as the sacred side that he has. There's just no reason not to, at the very least just to check to see if he has good control over it. Now you see he has an insane amount of springles. Now I do want to trade out some of my springles for his, just because I am maxed. Getting the tower up allows me to see something that he has. He's wasting some worker mining time on castle and some wood, which is nice. He has a lot of speed still, specifically springles. It looks like he also ran out of wood currently, so he's probably not going to be making a lot of them. A lot more than they already have. With the castle gone, I can just push in, even with his mangonels. They shouldn't do a huge amount of damage as long as I split my units. The knights don't really take huge amounts of damage versus mangonels, and as long as I'm able to split my units, which I do a poor job of, I should have pressed C instantly to get them spread out, and then just spread them around, then I would have been fine. But since I did not do that, they took a huge amount of damage and then lost a lot of HP, which makes them easier for Springles, Mangonels, Horse Archers, just anything to finish them off when they're low on HP. Now they're grouping up again since they're attacking. I lost all of my siege, and with the archers not really being the best counter to siege, I do pull back here with whatever few units I have. Yeah, I do that, since it'd just be useless to keep pushing in. Now, it was not a favorable trade for me, and he got to H4 during that. However, as I saw earlier, he ran out of wood, and I'm guessing he has not had the hottest gold supply, at least comparatively to me, and my guild hall, as well as my number of workers, which I also assume is higher than his. I was thinking about getting an upgrade for crossbowmen, but since I already lost pretty much all of my crossbowmen, there's no real need, as I can just produce cannoneermen, which are arguably the best unit in the game. Cannoneermen pretty much counter everything, and even knights, the thing that's supposed to counter them, they do pretty well against, as long as they have a critical number of them. So here's the relic that I can pick up. There's, I think I guess, picked up the other 3 relics already, which is quite a large mistake by me. I was ahead of him. He got H3 quite, well, not too much later than me, but still at a later date than I did. So I really should have put more pressure on him and not allowed him to get all the relics, at least not as easily. But yeah, when you do have a relic on the map and use this late game, there's no particular reason not to just take it and pop it into a mosque or church or whatever it is that you civ plane that you have. Even if you just make one, as it will very fast pay for itself. So I wanna remax on better units, in particular cannoneermen instead of crossbowmen. And I get a little bit more worried now, since I let him get to tier 4, well H4, without really punishing him. Even though the game, like I said earlier, should have really been over, or quite a while back. He just refused to leave straight away, so this turned out to be quite somewhat of a game. I added a few more Springles to counter his Springles before he was H4, but now that he's H4, it is a bit, well, I wouldn't say pointless, but less beneficial than it would have been earlier on. As you see, I'm so sure even that he doesn't even have a castle there, that I straight up just move my workers, then build castles there, instead of, you know, clearing it out with my army or anything. So there was really no reason for me to do this earlier. I can see, well, I mean, I'm not paying attention to it right now, but now I notice that he's also mining from here and does not have any defenses. So he was extremely vulnerable here this entire time, and I could have cut off his main supply of gold a lot earlier. The reason I built horsemen is I think I was at the time struggling for gold, so I decided to add a few horsemen just so I can do a few run-bys here and there to deal some damage to his economy and whatnot. Now with the castle done, I'm gonna try to harass some of the workers. He did not pay attention and let me get my castle up, which is really nice for me, as he could have stopped it if he wanted to with the workers, I believe, or just move a few units there as soon as he saw it. It was definitely possible to stop it. Now I have a secured location there. He will need cannons to break through that, really, unless he wants to dump a lot of units into it. I'm not too worried about him breaking this position, again due to the red keep being present and it being red palace, not keep, I apologize, and it being the most broken thing in this game, at least as far as castles go. There's no reason for me not to put pressure, as I'm maxed and I have quite a large bank. I should have added a few more blacksmiths and gotten some more upgrades if I was still lacking upgrades. I'm just gonna be adding more and more castles in case he does get cannons and tries to take back that position. It's gonna slow him down somewhat, which would be nice for me. Yeah, I've just bought a bit of stone because I have enough gold to throw around, so I can have cannons and springles emplacements in the castle that I'm placing. But yeah, this is just a courtesy to end the game. Like I said, I really like the game did end quite a while back just because of how far my economy was in comparative to him. I do have way too much food income. I don't really need that, so repurposing some workers from food a bit earlier to wood, stone and gold, probably gold the least out of all of those, would have been the most beneficial for me. I wanna keep destroying his castle. I have my springles up a bit to see when his springles arrive and see if I can fight them. Still has quite a large number, so I decided to just back off for now. Since he's moved them out so forwardly and does not pay attention, I snipe a few of them down. The springles have a really, even non-Rus springles, have really good range, so if you're able to just snipe down a few of enemy siege with them, or even a few units, it's pretty much always good. You can attract the unit's attention, they run into you, lose a few, like, you pretty much, it's always important to rather pay attention to your army and have them on hold command, otherwise you're gonna lose more things. He did put him on hold command, but he's really not paying attention to his army, which I'm not sure what else is there to be paying attention to. It's not like I'm actively fighting him anywhere else, and I've literally just sniped his springles a bit earlier, but now I've destroyed all of his springles. I don't have any mangonels here, but as you can see, the red palace is doing more than enough. It's completely and utterly just melting units. Since springles don't have the requirement of needing to have a straight line to the target, they can shoot through wooden walls, which is a bit stupid if you ask me, but it works, and my opponent leaves. The second game is Mongol versus Ruse on Boulder Bay. I prefer Ruse on Boulder Bay to any other civ, and I do believe it is the best civ on Boulder Bay. It is definitely the highest win rate one in the highest competitive rank of AOE4. The main reason being is that they can easily harass the opponent on water. Unlike Delhi, the harass is really strong. So with Delhi, you can come in early with 3 or 4 ships and disturb the enemy from fishing. However, a turret absolutely destroys Delhi ships, well, Delhi worker ships, for one, and for two, they have a very low damage output and sacrifice a lot of fish collection, fish gathering, in that case food gathering, for a suboptimal game. Now on other maps, I think Delhi is fantastic, like Confluence, Mongolian Heights, or Danube River. Those 3 maps, I think Delhi is by far the best civ to play. But on this map, where the water is so open and the opponent cannot wall in against you, I think Ruse is by far the best civ to go. The reason why I think Delhi is nice on the other water maps that are hybrid is because even if the opponent walls in, a neat little trick you can do is to just build a dock behind the wall, and the docks go up pretty fast, so even if you build it in vision, the opponent needs to react pretty fast to stop it, and it's most of the time almost impossible to stop the dock from going up. And once the dock is up, they can build a tower behind it, but people just don't expect it. You're able to do a lot of damage having a dock nearby to heal your worker ships while they harass the enemy worker ships, while still gathering food for you. And if you need to, you can save them with the dock as well, obviously. Just having that ability to do that is insanely beneficial. Now, the nice thing about also Mongol versus Rus is that the Mongol is, well, given that you micro correctly, the Mongol is physically unable to steal any deer, as the Mongol requires 3 hits on a deer to kill it. So if he hits it once, if he hits it once, then he can deny it, but if he hits it once, you can just hit another one once, and then you'll get at least half, and the other half you can still micro for, try to get on the edge for, but you already are guaranteed half of the deer for free, essentially, versus Mongol. So yeah, it's always nice to just have this free advantage. As Rus, you still should be hitting your age up the fastest as well, given that you don't need to collect gold, just like on any other map. Well, the Mongol decided to go for a stable opener and produce scouts out of it, at least for now, which does worry me a bit, as I don't know if it's that beneficial for the Mongol to drop down stable and then produce double scouts out of it. It seems like a lot of waste of resources, especially on a hybrid map where they need all of the extra wood they can get. I can see it not being a huge investment on a normal land map, as they don't really need the wood for anything, but here the Mongols just waste the wood, and which means that he cannot go for a dock himself, which means that he ruins his economy for having the age up time at a similar time as I do. Now I see he's moving the worker across the map, which is the dead giveaway that he's going for a tower rush. He plans to do it, so I'm quite glad I dropped down the barracks. I would not be able to hold this without a barracks. Here my scouts get a bit stuck, which is unfortunate, but luckily I will manage to get them out without them dying. It's a very awkward location on the map. He could have locked me in and forced me to go all the way around if he wanted to, but he didn't micro to do so. I do lose a scout because I'm not paying attention, but he cannot punish my spearman really. He has 2 scouts, a villager and a Khan. A Khan will take forever to kill a spearman, and scouts, well, they don't fare well versus spearmen. It is literally, I believe, the biggest counter in the game, spearmen versus scouts. So now I'm H2, while my opponent is still H1. I have a fishing economy going, and I was able to defend his tower rush, at least for now. It's never too late for him to get the tower up. I do need to keep paying attention to it and not allow my opponent to have the tower go up. He's producing more and more scouts, which I do like for myself, because it just means that he's gonna delay his age up even more. I get a archer ship instead of a one boat, just so that it's easier for me to hold down any aggression he wants to do towards the dock. Now he's not paying attention to his units whatsoever, and so I'm literally able to walk my units into my TC from my wood line to pick off 2 of his scouts, which is I quite like. What I don't like is the UI showing me that the tower is done, when the last time I saw it wasn't. So that gave me a bit of a scare, but yeah. I do need gold this time around, since I did make a unit, and it will just take me longer go up without having a mining camp. It's just faster to acquire it and send workers to it than to just rely on the Golden Gate. It would be really nice if I'm able to pick up the cam with my Lodya boat. Oh yeah, just in any way, shape, form. It does have the further tower back up, but it doesn't really do much for me. And I'm indeed able to pick off his cam, which is really nice. So here I just need to patrol, well I mean, until next patch, which should drop sometime in February, sometime soon. Until then, patrol is not a feature, but I still need to be aware of my opponent's movement to see if he tries to get up any more structures or anything like that. So at this point I'm just basically going over what my loose conditions are. My loose conditions are if he rather does some sort of strong push now, which I can't imagine given how low his H2 was and how much he invested into other things. So luckily the tower was in range, so I believe already was sending a unit there, but now it is safer. And since it's the same worker that was already damaged, it will end up going down here to assume the spearman. But yes, as I was saying, my loose conditions are if he's able to kill me right now, or if he's somehow able to get a better economy than me. Now the way he's able to get a better economy than me is if he deploys multiple docks and start mass producing fishing boats out of them, since I only have one. If he builds even just two, eventually he will at least catch up to me in eco. But he can obviously build 3 or 4 if he feels really adventurous. Or, since I assume he went up with a silver tree, as I don't see aura around the towers, it is an upgrade that you need to get, but since I didn't see the aura around the towers, I assume that he did not get the DS stones, which leaves out the silver tree, which leaves out that the boom that he can get from trade. And Mongol's boom from trade is honestly broken. It can easily contest the water eco, and I think by far gain out on the water eco by a large amount. And that tower has an insane range. I'm not sure how it will be able to keep hitting my ship, but finally I find a position where it doesn't die. So at this point, I think my goal is to, well, first of all, scout to see if he is indeed going for a trading eco, and if he is, I will need to mass an army to push into him. I do believe I will get an H3 that is way faster, comparatively speaking, to him. But I do need to make sure he's not getting a trade eco, otherwise this, even 10 minutes from now, he will surpass me by eco exponentially. Now he runs in a few scouts into here. I'm not sure why really. He knows that I have units there, and that is a tight choke point where he cannot go past my spearmen, as opposed to if he just runs the scouts above where there's at least some room to maneuver. And now he goes on to harass my workers a bit. He produced a defensive ship at home, and forces me to react a bit strongly, since I do depend on my eco to survive. I do hit H3 now. I have a relic over on my side, so I would be nice to collect that. And then I'm going to start to build up an army. Now that I'm going to transfer workers off food, as I have way too much food. It was a mistake to have that many workers on food when I already have a dock. I was lacking a bit of food to age up, but as soon as I had enough, there was no reason for me to continue making food. Gathering food with villagers in any case. Now I do want to drop down a few more production structures when I can. He's not paying attention to his ship, so he will lose that. As well as the nice thing about Rus is that the Lodya boats are one of the best archer ships as well. They are very fast, they can shoot in any direction, and they are reasonably tanky comparatively to Mongol, Abbasid, and Delhi, I believe, who have equally fast ships that can shoot in any direction, but are less tanky. or compared to Chinese, HRE, English, who have slower ships that are only able to shoot from the front, I believe. I'm not sure actually about the English ships, but that is true for HRE and Chinese. They need to stand still to shoot and can only shoot from the front, which doesn't make them the best for chasing down targets or other things. Since Rus is lacking any sort of capital ship at H4, the Lodias, even without upgrades by default, are one of the best H2 ships. Even against Hulks, like Hulks were broken when they had 6 armor against archer ships, but now that it was nerfed to 2, and given that they cost about 3 times as much as an archer ship, you can more than deal with Hulks as long as you have the production to produce with them, because it is faster to produce Hulks than to produce 3 archer ships from a single dog. So to go up against the French, you do need multiple production structures for dogs. Since one of my loose conditions is for him to get a very strong fishing eco, I do go back to check and make sure that he's not doing that. And indeed, his fishing eco is not the strongest, to say the least. So at this point, I am almost sure that he's going for trade, and if he's not, then he's basically losing the game. At this point, I'm quite close to H4, so I believe I'm gonna hit H4 first before doing anything else. Now he just ran in his can and almost killed himself into my spearman again. He only now hits H3, while I'm gonna go for H4 momentarily. However, again, like I said earlier, the trade from the Mongol is honestly insanely broken. And not only that, it seems that I'm walled in by the forest from his trade. I now do spot the trade on the minimap, well, at least, yeah, now I spot the trade on the minimap, and there is a lot of trading that he's doing. He is probably out-equaling me with my dog economy currently. And he got honestly the luckiest tree spawn. I'm actually blocked out from going onto the high ground with my units. From the path above the shoreline, not under it, which is honestly kind of broken. I didn't even know it was possible to have your access blocked there. That seems like it should be something that is kind of hard-coded to not work like that, given how important it is. At least if it is going to be blocked off, it should be equally blocked off from both sides, as now he has a clear access to it without me being able to easily contest him. Yeah, so here I decided to go for instead a large amount of units instead of a push, instead of H4, because if I went for H4, it would have taken me forever to get an army out, and now that he has trading, at least to me, I prioritize that I need to kill his trade above anything else. Delaying my age up, or delaying my push would have done more equal damage to me than anything else, so I decided to just aggressively make units since I now have the infrastructure to do so. I'm honestly not sure if the best call would have been is to do what I did, but it makes sense to me that I should have went for units, and I'm glad I did, given that he's proxying more buildings over here. I do understand he wants to contain me, but proxying so many buildings right next to me and producing an army, I mean, I really should have been able to scout this a bit better than I did, if I'm being honest. I kind of messed up, as that archer push could have actually done a lot of damage if he had a large number of archers out earlier, which he probably did. So that is a huge mistake by me, by not actually scouting it out earlier. But given that I have mangonels out and he has nothing to counter them currently, I should be just fine to push him back. And given that all of his production is here, or at least a large portion of it, 2 siege workshops is a lot of investment. The archer rangers less so, but the workshops are quite an investment. And given that he mostly has archers, which are the worst units to go up into mangonels. He does have his own mangonel, but unlike him, I don't have only archers. I have also knights, which don't really care about two springers. I don't care about springers either, but I meant to say two mangonels. So for now, I'm still quite afraid, as he has still the trade going, and presumably he just kept making more and more traders in the meantime, and he already had a large amount before. So he should definitely be able to just outproduce me. Outproduce me as well, but as a result of him out-equaling me. Now I just wanted to finish off this archery range, even though I don't think I really have to. I should just leave it to my rams. I just need to kill the workshops and then I could move on. If it produces archers behind my line, it doesn't really do anything for me. Now it just reacts way too late to that mangonel shots and uses all of his units. I can see that there's no target fire with his mangonel, so I don't react with my archers and it's only crossbowmen for the most part. He produced a Hulk equivalent from his dock, and he keeps getting more and more proxies going up, which I'm gonna be honest, is really not the play when he has no units on the side of the map. I'm not complaining. So at this point I am not much afraid, given how much I should be ahead of him unit wise and production structures that he does really not have at home. And now I'm finally able to put a stop to his trade, which is really good for me. I will produce a few demos to counter his Hulk equivalent, and I build a lumber camp instead of a mining camp at my guild, which is always nice. I don't know if I actually noticed that or not. I don't think I did. Yeah, indeed I haven't at the time. And now I can just, as long as I can just stop this trade, I will now go back to being in control. He shouldn't really be going up to H4, as he just invested so much into structures and, a decent amount into unit production as far as I could see. So hopefully he should not have the resources to go into H4 right now, and without the trade or a good fishing eco, which he could have gotten a bit more with, but I really doubt he could have gotten many docks producing multiple fishing boats at the same time, due to the fact that he proxied one dock and built on a Hulk out of it essentially, and then had multiple structures that his proxy destroyed. I feel like now I'm in a pretty good spot, and I think it would be quite hard for me to lose from here on out. I build a few more fishing, a few more docks to just spam out fishing boats. I really like doing this if I feel like I'm ahead. Docks are just like pretty much an extra TC, and except that it costs, instead of costing 400-300, it costs 150. So effectively it is over 4 times cheaper, yet it produces a more effective food gatherer than a TC. And granted it's limited, but it's more effective. So dropping down a few more docks just to get you eco really up to speed, I feel like is a great decision. Really, it just sets you so far ahead. If you're able to get away with this, obviously it might be a bit risky if you're not in position to get away with this, but I really feel like I am in a position to get away with this. So at this point I'm going up to H4, completely stop his market economy. Not only did I stop it, he lost, anyway, I would say at least 10 traders. So again, I feel pretty confident and think that this game is as good as over, unless he has some surprise up his sleeves that I'm not aware about. I really should grab up some more relics, because why not? I already have an insane fish eco, or I'm about to. Why not just add a much better gold eco as well? There's no reason not to. And I feel really good about this game. High armory also like one of the best landmarks in the game, I feel like, especially given that it's a late game landmark. It makes it all the way stronger in my opinion. Having lower cost production for siege is insane. Having special upgrades for siege that no other civ gets is insane. So yeah, as in my opinion, Rus is one of the strongest late game civs. If you let them build up a number of Stealth C, some Springles to snipe down any cannons and mangonels, what can you do against them? Stealth C will walk over anything, and then your Springles will kill off any siege. All you really need then is to add like a few knights, maybe as a buffer unit between Stealth C and well, any harassing unit. Like, I mean, the horsemen will not be able to get anywhere near close to them, so knights is the only thing that can really threaten them. And again, I think they can do pretty well against knights by himself. At this point, I will just buy out enough stone to get to 800 and just build a castle to stop my opponent from doing anything I don't want him to do. I already have, I'm pretty sure, essentially 35 fishing boats only, as I don't think I have anyone on wood. Well, okay, I had a few villagers working on food here and there, but 25, 26 working boats is a large amount. They produce a very large food income, so yeah. And given that this is Rus, which also has the best fish economy, given that you don't need any return trips, and once you exhaust the deep water, you can just move on to the next one. So he didn't go for H4, but he did build up a large army of knights and springers. Luckily, I decided to split my army into two groups, one on the hill and one on the bottom, and now I'm able to kind of pincer his army. I probably shouldn't have brought the the mangonels with me, but those two shots were good enough, I guess. But I really did not need them. And now that he's an age behind and lost the battle against me, while having no eco speak of really, now that he has lost all of his market, even if he goes for a huge boom with his fishing boats, I'm already far ahead of that, and I'm going to be able to max out in a few minutes. This game is over at this point. I'm just gonna buy a bit of stone just so I can get to 800 to build the castle. Not the most efficient way, but doesn't really matter at this point, I feel like. And yeah, that's gonna my bond will top out very shortly. So that's why I think Rus is really strong on this map. Just the harass you can do early on, and if you can get yourself ahead early, if you survive with Rus, you can pretty much just win the late game. And then now it's time for the last game. Now for the last game is gonna be Rus vs HRE on Nagari. Now on Nagari, I think Delhi is a bit more viable than on Boulder Bay, but I still think by far Rus takes the cake on this one, for the same reason on Boulder Bay. You cannot wall off against Rus on this map if you go for the middle, so the opponent essentially has to give up the middle of the map to Rus. It's honestly not even smart to, unless you are Rus yourself obviously, but otherwise it's not really smart to take the middle against Rus. So by picking Rus, you automatically secure the middle, or at least put yourself in the best position to obtain it, which puts you at a really good position to win the game, as if you're able to outlast your opponent's eco, assuming they go for the dock on the edge of the map, rather in like in top left or in top right in this case. So yeah, north or south of the map compass. And then you are pretty much all set, as they'll get out all the deep water, even though it does refresh. It does so at the quite a slow rate, comparatively speaking, and well, they're gonna run out of shoreline fish as well pretty fast. While I have not had a game where you would have run out of all of the fish on the middle part of Nagari. Just not an experience I have encountered so far. I do want to go for 2 scouts with Ruse as well, for a very simple reason of getting enough bounty to get to H2 safely, and just to collect more money. It's more gold. Never harmful. Usually you go for a hunting cabin open, but in pro play and high level games, a lot of people go for even hunting cabin open on non-hybrid maps. I mean, obviously, on hybrid maps that's not really an opener. But even then, Rus now tend to go for a first scout outside of the hunting cabin, as it allows them to get to their deer, wolf, and all, and even sheep just faster. And as the opponent usually themselves versus Rus will go for a second scout, and if you wait for your hunting finish hunting cabin to finish and then produce scouts out of it, you will be severely delayed with your second scout comparatively to somebody who goes for a second scout out of the TC. So even on land maps where you go for a hunting cabin opener, I think it's a good idea to just get a scout out of the TC, just so that you can keep up with your opponent at the start. Now, while there's not much going on for now, I will say that there were 2 games that I didn't include again for the series. I would like to keep 3 games really a series, as it's already took up 1 hour each time, and this time it will take over an hour by like 10-15 minutes, maybe even 20. I haven't fully added this up together, but it will be the longest episode so far. And I do actually want to rank this account up at least, or just have enough games, as if I play 3 games a week on this account, nothing's really gonna change. But another reason is those games I sometimes not the most interesting games to go over, or there's not much to gain out of it, so I just try to select games that are more interesting and there's some benefit to actually looking over them. For example, one of the maps, which actually, I want to be honest, I failed to record, which is honestly not even a big deal, as this is kind of a summary of what I was thinking and what I was doing, so there's no particular reason why I couldn't do this in a replay. But firstly I failed to record it, and secondly it was a water map, so I don't know how many people would be interested in seeing a water map, especially given that there's a very simple way to win on water maps, and it's called playing China. China by far is the most busted civ on water maps. Ruse still kind of works, but the thing is, China has a defensive landmark which you can put right next to your docks, and if you position it well, the harass will do pretty much nothing. And China has the best, and I mean the best late game ships, so it's just, as long as you can survive for the first 20 minutes, you just win on water maps. Maybe I'll include one water map game eventually, but I think so far it's not much to show for itself really. And then another game that I had was where I just played incredibly poorly. I think I made the exact same mistake I already made on this series already, so it won't be beneficial to go over it, as the mistake is identical, and I just played really horrible, so not really wanna go over that really. Now I see my opponent going up for a very weird landmark. It's I don't actually know what the name of it is, because I think this is the first time I've seen it made in a 1v1 game. I think my teammate at one point did go off with it, because he couldn't really get any benefits from the arching chaplain because of the specific circumstance of that game. But outside of that, I've never seen this landmark being built. It's basically a free blacksmithery, which I believe reduces the cost of the upgrades, which should have been somewhat oversigned to me to begin with, because why would you get this if you weren't planning to push, as the Arching Chaplain is just, there's no way to describe how much better it is in comparison to well, again, I don't even know what the landmark is called, but to the blacksmith essentially. It's just so infinitely better than it that it just makes no sense to go for it. And even if you're going for a push, I would argue that it would still just make more sense to get the Arching Chaplain and then just build the blacksmith, and the Arching Chaplain will pay for the upgrades being a bit more expensive by having your workers mine and work faster. It will just pay for itself. I mean, at least, you know, I might be a bit wrong, as you can just have multiple priests blessing, and then maybe it's gonna have similar effect to the Arching Chaplain, but to me it makes no real sense to go for it. Now I'm definitely gonna hit H3 way faster than my opponent is. I'm not actively scouting what my opponent is doing, but I have positioned my scouts in such a way that I will see them move across the map, I'll see my opponent move across the map when if and when he decides to do so. Which is both, you know, I like and I dislike. I really should have sent my scouts periodically to actually scout and see if he was doing anything, but since I just believed that I would have enough time to react to whatever was happening. If my opponent decided to send those units, I'll see them with my scout, and that gives me, like, well, if it's not knights or horsemen, and if it's horsemen, I'm not worried too much. But if it, and you know, for knights it needs to be at least H3. So if it's not horsemen, it will take them, like, I would say 30 seconds to 50 seconds to arrive here, which gives me enough time to throw, well, maybe not throw down multiple structures and produce units out of them, but if I have structures down already, definitely enough time to produce out of them. I don't really have any production structures until I hit H3, and as you can see, his units managed to sneak past my scout. I don't know if like, I was paying attention to it this time on the minimap, and I'm pretty sure you could not see them until they went out there, while I just, for some reason, assumed that where my scout was positioned it would automatically see the units. So not only did I lose like 10 to 20 seconds of time to prepare, I'm also currently out of wood, which really doesn't help me in my current scenario. Now the mana thumbs from HRE at H2 are quite weak in my opinion. I really don't think they serve much of a purpose, if I'm being honest. So you know, there's only one obvious response to this is, and you throw down archery ranges and make I don't know why, crossbowman, there you go. I really don't know why I couldn't remember the name of the unit for it, but you just throw down archery ranges and make crossbowmen. They're like, it makes spearman with mana thumbs, which doesn't do anything for him. It just doesn't. If he had horsemen with mana thumbs, then crossbowmen would have been severely countered. I would need an actual army composition. Here I can just mass produce units out of a single building type and I'll be fine. Now, having said that, I have indeed got one unit versus, I would say, like 20 units of my opponent, so it's not ideal, to say the least. I have really messed up with my scout positioning and spotted this way too late. I just looked at the map and thought, hey, I will see my opponent go there with my scout first, so I'll have another 20 seconds. Like, if I was given another 20 seconds, I would have had like 4-5 more crossbowmen out, which wouldn't have saved me from taking any damage, but it would have like, if the town center was firing like more crossbowmen out of it, it would have just been much more beneficial to me. It just would have been so much better for me. But alas, that's not what I did. I also did mess up, but given that I have the middle of the map, this is honestly totally fine for me. Not only is my opponent still H2, I'm honestly not sure what his goal is here. His units are not fast enough to catch up with my workers. They are counterable, as you can see. So yes, they give me worker idle time, but really they killed like very few workers for how much in my base he was. And since if he has the same number of ships that I have, he would have already run out of food pretty much. My eco should still be ahead of his, even having lost everything that I've lost. Because while I have lost quite a few things, I've also killed his army and I'm an age ahead of him. So I'm honestly totally fine from this position. I'm not sure what he was planning to achieve with this. If he had a few rams with this push, maybe I could see this doing something. With a few rams, he could have had with a few rams, he could have been running around killing my workers as he did right now, but also attacking my landmarks, killing my houses, killing my production structures, doing anything except for what he did. I still think even with rams, this would not have been a very strong push, but at least it would have held meaning, while his current push I really don't even think had meaning. He just did it, and I'm not sure why. It looked scary, but I don't think it really did anything. And as he's still just spamming spearmen and man-at-arms, it doesn't really do anything, because crossbowmen work just fine against both. They're not ideal against spearmen, but they do just fine against them. And now he's just sacrificing more units into me. And this whole time my eco has been great. I am now close enough to age up shortly. He has collected a few relics with us, given that he got to H3 in the meantime, and since I was forced to be on my side of the map, we've gotten a 2-3 relic split, which is beneficial to him. So if he is able to survive for a long time, maybe he can make himself work for him. But I'm playing Ruse, which the small issue with him getting into late game and trying to survive is that Ruse late game is utterly broken. So I do not like this position for him very much, if I'm being honest. With 2 relics and the insane fish eco, I'll be able to go up to H4 very shortly. And again, with Ruse being, again, in insane civ, if I was playing any other civ, he would have definitely been ahead of me by far. My dock finished way later, way too late, comparatively than it should have. And all of my workboats would have been idle for the past 3 to 5 minutes. I'm not exactly sure actually how long that lasted, but they would have had no income. While with Ruse, since they don't require to return to the dock, I had my fishing eco up the entire time. I wasn't able to increase it, but I was able to continuously receive food from it. I'm always gonna go up with the high tower, because there's just no reason to put the castle landmark over it. The advantages that the high tower gives you overweigh pretty much any situation where you would want to have the high tower instead. So yeah, even I don't think I've played great this game. In fact, I think I've played pretty poorly this game. Just the civ choices that we made loading into this game. Well, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think my opponent played great. Not, by his display of skill, but by his decision making of making the push that he did. Now, while horsemen should do something against crossbowmen, having 3-4 times as many crossbowmen as horsemen makes it worthwhile for them to do nothing. And now he's have 2 his entire army back, which he would need his spearmen. Not sure what purpose they would serve, but he would need them if he wanted to defend my army push, which I'm not even going to do yet, because I would like I don't want to do what he did and just run into my enemy without any sort of siege and let my enemy massacre my army. So I would just capture both of the sides, keep building up my eco, especially my fish eco, and just try to get into late game where I will just have better units. It's really as simple as that. So yeah, if I really want to, I do really the thing. I'm really biased. I really like cannons. I think to the point where it is detrimental for me. But I just really want to produce cannons and use cannons instead of springles. They absolutely destroy siege. Well, besides springles, they absolutely destroy siege and buildings. So I just really enjoy using cannons. While that's not the best for dealing with springles, as long as it's not true springles, I think it's manageable. Now, given perfect micro, I think it is possible to just not lose a single springle or take any damage from a springle versus cannons, but I've never seen such perfect micro. Even at really high level games and pro levels, people mess up, and even though I think it's not the best, I think cannons are just such a great unit that it's probably not the best, but I just prefer using them over springles for most part. And that's gonna be it. We started at 1342 and finish at 1383. Yeah, let's hope you enjoyed this episode and see you next week.